What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with a quick guide on how to get the WOLFSBANE exotic axe in Destiny 2 Ash and Iron. This video will focus on the initial unlock for the weapon. As we can see right here, it has Resurgence Directive, where light attacks generate sword energy and have the chance to spawn seeking Quicksilver nanites that heal the wielder upon attaching. Plus, there is Nano Assault, where nanites that attach to the wielder charge the blade, and then we can long press reload, and when fully charged, it'll overclock the attached nanites, which enhances the blade's offensive capabilities. Light attacks deal increased damage to targets, and fully charged heavy attacks create a flaming Quicksilver Swarmnado. So as you can see in the gameplay, light attacks will actually charge the blade up. The heavy attack behaves kind of like the traditional Rise of Iron style axe, but once it's fully charged, if you do that long reload, it will do a much higher damage heavy attack, which pretty much ignites targets in front of it, and it appears to do a fairly significant amount of damage. On top of that, the healing for the weapon is very strong as well. Obviously, I haven't spent a ton of time with it, but I would tentatively say this appears to be a pretty strong exotic weapon, so that part of it is generally impressive. In terms of the exotic mission though, we simply launch this from Pinnacle Ops, where the initial run through has set modifiers and set power. So the basic unlock mission that we run is actually relatively easy in terms of combatant difficulty. After we've done initial runs where we can probably go back in to earn a catalyst, you can apply modifiers, and that of course will allow us to earn power, higher tiered rewards as extra legendary drops, and presumably, like I said, intrinsic upgrades and catalysts, but I'll probably funnel those into a separate video. In terms of the basic mechanics for the mission, in this video, we'll round up the main encounters. There are big sections where you'll have to traverse and kind of find your way. If I was to cover absolutely every bit of direction, that would take a long time. So in terms of finding your way through the mission, you'll just have to plod along, essentially, until you figure out the route, which will be beneficial as well to learn for future runs of the mission. But in terms of key mechanics, there are these scions that we can call in, and if we stand next to them, we'll get a buff that allows us to survive a sort of radioactive attack that we'll suffer inside of this Warmind bunker. But when we first encounter the Scion, we'll need to stand in a pool of radial area, and that will allow us to help the Scion dissolve barriers that we'll encounter throughout the mission. The first encounter room right here has 4 security nodes that we need to destroy. The first one is bang in the center of the room, on the ceiling, in the middle of this Warmind architecture, so we can go ahead and shoot that. After that, kill a bunch of enemies, of course, and you'll find that there is a pool of radial area stuff, once again. If we go and stand in that, the Scion will actually head in the direction of one of the side rooms. And once we're charged up from standing in the pool, we can go and help the Scion dissolve the barrier, and then head to each of the separate rooms to destroy the security node. So it's basically a rinse and repeat process. Once that's done, we can continue progressing through the mission. We'll come down to a room that looks like this, with a pool of water on the bottom. On one side of the room, there'll actually be a terminal that we can interact with, and that will grant us access to escape the room, essentially. When you activate that terminal, one of the doors to your right on the right hand side wall in the corner here will actually allow you to go through. You'll notice that if a door is incorrect, it will go to open and then instead shock you to death. So there'll be a bit of trial and error finding the correct doors to pass through in these particular sections of the mission. Then we'll come to a room where we can call the hacking Scion once again. When we do that, we'll again then be able to use a terminal to execute the partner hack, which basically opens a door into the next section. Now in this particular room, again, we'll need to call the hacking Scion to one of the terminals, and there's an elevator that we need to access. For us, in the center of the room, behind the elevator, there was another terminal that has an icon on it, kind of looks like a sand timer or something. And for us, we had to execute the partner hack terminal on the right hand side of the room that has a matching icon. After doing that, the elevator will start moving down. Again, you may have to dodge a little bit of the radioactive stuff. And you'll notice that you need to shoot the arc nodes that are on the walls as we go down the elevator to disable the barriers of electricity, and you pretty much do have to shoot them as you fall down. Then we'll come to a really big open space here that has a central room and 3 side rooms. So when you head into the central room, we can call the hacking Scion again, and you'll notice there are a bunch of computer screens around the central terminal that have different icons on them. On our run through, we basically had to look for a room that has a symbol that matches one of the icons on the screens in the center. There'll be a terminal that faces that side room, and you can call the Scion over to it and then shoot panels in the floor that allow you basically to get through the barrier into the side rooms. And you have to select the symbols that match those on the center consoles. To basically pick a symbol from all of the screens in the middle of the central room, find a side room that has a matching hacking symbol, call the scion over to it, go through the floor and the barriers, and then execute the hack on the symbol that matches. And we'll need to do this 3 times, 1 for each of the side rooms. And be sure to call the scion over each time you need to do it. Once you get all 3 of them correct, if you head back out into the open space, there'll be a bunch of lifts that appear, and it will tell us to override grav lifts. Now, basically, jump onto the elevators, go up to the various platforms, and there we'll be able to use the protection aura by spawning the scion in. That basically just makes it a bit easier to traverse through this section. Again, there'll be some trial and error here to find the correct route, but it's reasonably linear. Every floor that we pass will ultimately lead us to a node that allows us to override grav lift access, and then we can head through the sort of Seavery looking portal to continue our way through the jump-in area. We have to do that a couple of times to get to the final boss encounter, where we need to stop the WOLFSBANE launch. So in here there's a bunch of Vex, and there'll be Minotaurs that spawn in, referred to as Radiolaria Nexus. When we kill those, they'll drop the pool of Radiolaria on the floor. Each time we do this, a scion will move to one of the side doors, and basically we need to go and help the scion get access into each of these side rooms. For each side room that we get into, again, we'll have to activate the hack thing, then we can return to the center. And if you do this room by room, eventually a boss will spawn, Valus Thun, if I'm saying that correct. This boss is health gated, but at least in the initial run through, the boss would become shielded, and it would say the boss prepares an attack. To stop this attack, you'll notice a wyvern that will spawn in. When you kill that wyvern, which is referred to as a warden, it will free the scions and ultimately allow us to pick up psionic protection to survive the radioactive attack. Each time that we do that, the boss's health will no longer be shielded and we can continue damage. I imagine when we do this on higher difficulties, obviously it will be more challenging. There may be extra mechanics that are required to use at that point, but once the boss is taken down, it'll tell us to destroy the satellite, and if you shoot the WOLFSBANE node in the very center of the room, that will basically complete the mission, and then we get the initial drop of WOLFSBANE. So pretty cool quest overall. I don't think it's like the most mind-blowing exotic mission we've ever had, but at the same time, there's a bit of narrative component in there as well, which is nice. Some kind of cool mechanics, and I think it's safe to say this is probably the best piece of content we've had from Ash and Iron so far. So that's the initial run through, guys. I'll keep you posted on additional things like how to pick up the catalyst, additional upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So give us your experiences or thoughts with the exotic axe down below. If you found the video helpful, a rating really does help me out on the channel. Otherwise though, cheers for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
Get ready for a fight, and watch out. There's something familiar about the signature this time.
nothing. A dead world. An empty future bereft of any meaning.
The future is not yours to shape.
When my command is complete, it will be.
That's the machine. Destroy this, and you destroy the conductor's ability to bring Red Legionnaires into our timeline.
You think you've won? I will return from the network in a strength beyond anything you can imagine.
That's a Quicksilver energy signature. One from another timeline. Take it, Guardian.